Hi everyone, Leah here from EurekaCrystalBeads.com with another fun beading video for you. Before I get started, just a quick reminder to go check out the rest of our channel, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and notification bell, and you'll always know when we're posting new content. Today's project is a really fun cocktail ring. And this is a really great piece because it features two really fun items. So, of course, we love our Swarovski crystal, and it also features that really fun star-shaped Wibeduo check glass bead, which is a two-hole bead. And I think it's really fun in this ring because it sort of gives the look of the prongs that you would see in a beautiful big cocktail ring. Now, another fun thing about this project is that it only has 4 ingredients. That's it. 4 things. That's all you need to make this. So of course we have our rivoli there. We have our Wibeduos. I have a Toho size 11 seed bead, that's that purple one, and I have a Miyuki 15, that's that green one there. That's it. That's all we need to make this really fun ring. We're going to be using some right angle weave to make our band, and then we'll have a really fun bezel technique to hold in our crystal for our cocktail ring. So let's get started. Okay, so just to give you a close-up of some of those items again, we have a Toho size 11 seed bead here. And we have a Miyuki size 15. Now, as you can see in the ring, the Toho size 11 is pretty dominant in the band, and then it's accented on top. So we pull that color from the band up to the top of the stone, and then the rest going around the bezel is that really beautiful green in the Miyuki 15. You can have a lot of fun with these colors though. So you could absolutely pick a secondary 11 in a similar green, and you could work that into the right angle weave band if you wanted to pull more of the green down. You could have fun with another color of a 15 in here. It's up to you, but I really love the idea that this is 4 things, 4 colors, nice and simple. It's not a project with 100 different pieces that you have to hunt down in order to make. So I have my Swarovski crystal rivoli right here. And if you've ever been to our website, EurekaCrystalBeads.com, you know we have a huge selection of fun rivoli colors to choose from. And then we have that really great Wibeduo bead. Now I do want to point out that there is a front and a back to this bead. So you can see here's the top, it's a little bit puffed up, it's a bit rounded, and then the back is a little bit flatter. So that is going to be important for you to be aware of as we make our ring, so that way the puffed up side is the part that is facing up as we string on our Wibeduos when we're making our ring. All right, let's get started. Okay, now the first thing I do that I find really helpful is I string on my Wibeduos in the way that they're going to be situated for this first step, which is all face up and with my holes running along the top there. And then I slide them off my needle. This way, when I go to pick them up with the seed beads in between, they're already lined up and ready for me to pick up. So we're gonna start by going through our first Wibeduo here. And then we're going to pick up 1 15, 2 11s, and 1 15, and we're going to go through our next Wibeduo. And we're going to repeat this. You're going to want to make sure that you cull any beads that aren't quite regular. I have one there that's a little bit off. We're going to want to put that off to the side there. It's especially important when you're doing something as exact as a bezel where you're going to be holding in a stone. You want to make sure you don't have any irregular beads. Luckily, these are Japanese seed beads, so not nearly as many irregularities as some of the other ones that are out there. Okay, so what you'll notice about what I did here is that I started with a Wibeduo and I ended with seed beads. And the reason that that's important is because we're going to sew this into a circle, so it's going to be a continuous loop. So we don't want to have seed beads at both ends, or we don't want to have a Wibeduo, Wibe, I've heard it multiple ways. More often than not, I hear Wibeduo, so that's what I'll use, but I may slip up occasionally and call it a Wibeduo, just because it sounds a little more fun. And by the way, this is about 3 feet of 6-pound fire line, and I'm just using a size 12 beading needle. Okay, so I'm going to take my tail and my working thread, and I'm going to tie this into a square knot right over left, then left over right. Just like that. I like to bring my 2 knots down together, and then I like to pull that finished knot down towards my beadwork. And this in and of itself gives you a lovely start for so many projects because of the way that the Wibeduos sit, and that they give a very regal look to the projects. And I don't say that just because I'm using gold and purple, which is a very sort of regal color scheme, but they do. They have a really lovely look. So these are very inspiring beads to work with. So if you've never really dove into the 2-hole bead arena, Wibeduos are a really fun one to start with because I think that they really do have a very inspiring shape. Okay. So now I'm going to travel through a few beads to pull that knot into my beadwork. So I'm just going to travel through the seed beads and then come out of the next Wibeduo like that. You can work clockwise or counterclockwise, whatever feels most intuitive for you. Now we're going to go around our circle here, and as we go through each Wibeduo, I'm going to pick up 4 of my Miyuki 15s, and I'm still going to be using the bottom hole, or the same hole that we've been using so far. That's what we get right there. I'm going to go around 3 more times, just through that bottom hole. So this is what we have now. So now we're going to start some beadwork that's going to come up to the tops of the Wibeduos. It's not going to cover the point completely. We are going to leave the very point exposed, but it is going to allow us to come up into that second hole and not have any thread showing, which is something I really like to try to do when I'm working with 2-hole beads. So to start that, I'm going to go through the next size 15, so the first one in that next group of 4. Just like this. And it may seem a little weird, but now we're going to sort of reverse our direction this way. And I'm going to pick up 4 more of my 15s. And I'm going to go right into the top hole of that Wibeduo. Just like that. We're going to pick up 4 more for the other side. And if you look at the 4 15s right here, that very first one right next to the Wibeduo, that's the one you want to go into, but heading into the Wibeduo again. So go right back down into that bottom hole. So this is what we get. So now to do that again, we're going to travel through those 4 15s and through the bottom hole of that next Wibeduo. If your needle can make it, you can go right into the first of the 15s in that next little group. Sometimes your needle may not want to make that angle, but in this case it did. So you can go right through that first bead and save yourself a little bit of thread pulling if you can. And then we're just going to do that again. I'm going to pick up my 4 15s, reverse my direction by going into the top hole, just like that. Pick up another 4, head into that 15 that's right next to the Wibeduo, and then head through the same hole. So I'm just going to do this 2 more times. And again, we do that by going through all 4 15s, through the bottom hole, and if you can, right through that next hole right there. So I'm going to do this 2 more times until I have that beadwork done around all 4 of my Wibeduos, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so you can see I have that additional beading now done on the sides of all of the Wibeduos. So this is the little group of 4 that I just finished. I traveled into the 15, through the Wibeduo, and here I am. So now we're going to work our way, so we're coming out of this top hole again. And the way that we're going to do that is just by going through the 4 15s that are here. I'm sorry, the 5 rather. The 5 that it takes to get there. The one that was in that line of 4, and then the 4 that we added. So a total of 4. And then pop through that top hole. So that's where we are now. So the part that we're going to work on next, so this is what we have. So you can see how it's going to be situated. So these Wibeduos will eventually sort of curve down over our rivoli a little bit. So the part we're going to do now is going to be this undersided beading that's going to hold our rivoli into place. So I'm going to pick up 5 of my 15s, 3 of my 11s, and 5 more of my 15s. I'm going to travel into the next Wibeduo, just like that. And the beadwork may naturally want to sort of be on the back. That's good. If it starts to be on the front, just kind of pop it along the back there. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to pick up 5, and then 3, and then 5. 5 15s, 3 11s, 5 15s, and through the next hole, or the next Wibeduo. Again, you can see how it kind of automatically wanted to go towards the back. That's good. That's a good thing. So I'm going to do this 2 more times, and I'll see you back in a minute with what our next steps are. All right, so I have my last little sequence of beads there. I'm going through the final Wibeduo, which brings me back to the beginning where I first started this step. So that's what we have. And again, you want to encourage them to sort of sit on the back. They will oftentimes naturally do this, but sometimes they might want to flip and sit on the front. Just encourage them to be on the back like that. So now that we have our last sequence of beads pulled down into place, and I'm through the top hole of that very first Wibeduo, I'm going to travel through the beads that I first added, the first loop of beads, and I'm going to exit from the middle of the 3 11s there, the middle 11. So this right here, this little bridge of beads, this is the very first one I added in these 4 that I did. That was the last one, and now we're back to the beginning. I'm coming out of the middle 11 that I added. Okay, so now's the fun part. Now's where we're going to start to do some beadwork that's going to get our rivoli set into place. And I don't know about you, but that's always the most exciting part to me. So I'm going to pick up an 11, and I'm going to go through the middle 11 of the next loop of beads there. You can see this starts to pull our loops in together. I'm going to pick up another 11. I'm going to go through the next middle 11. Don't worry about pulling anything really tight yet, or if you have thread showing, that's okay. We're not going to want to pull it tight until we have our rivoli in there anyway, so don't worry about it. Just hold it however it's most comfortable. Pick up another 11 into that middle 11 there. Pick up once more, and now we're back into the 11 that we were first exiting from when we started this step. So you can see where the thread was first exiting, and then now we're back. We've gone 1 full circle. Now we're going to take our rivoli, which I'm using in a beautiful luminous green, and we're going to put it face down onto our beadwork here. And I find it most easiest to do this by literally putting my beadwork down on my beading surface, and then I just put my finger right on top, and then you pull your thread, and everything comes in nicely. Now it may not sit in there super tight yet, but that's okay. We're going to circle around this, and that's going to help to tighten it up. So we're going to go through the beads that we just went through, which means those middle 11s as well as the new 11s in between them. And we're going to go in that little circle, and we're going to pull nice and tight, and that's what's going to help tighten this up. So right now I'm holding it tight there, but I'm going to keep going around because I want to reinforce this a little bit more. I want it to be held in there nice and tight. But usually after you go around at least another time, it'll stay tight pretty well, but I'll probably do a second time after that. And it's a nice quick step, which is good. And what this is going to do is this is going to create a very familiar shape if you are at all familiar with right angle weave. And it's going to set us up to do a really lovely right angle weave band for our ring. This would also be a really stunning earring as well. All you would have to do is just configure a loop, perhaps coming off of that top hole right there in the Wibeduo, and you'd have a really stunning earring design. But I wanted to make a ring because we don't have any rings yet on the Eureka Crystal Beads channel. So I thought this would be a really, really fun one as the first ring for the channel. Okay, so I've gone around my circle and it's nice and tight. So what I want to see is that when I let go of it, it doesn't loosen up on me. So I want to end by coming out of one of the middle beads in that loop that we created, those 4 loops we created, how they had 3 11s in the center. I'm coming out of one of the middle ones. In other words, I am not exiting out of one of the 4 that we added when we brought all the loops together. I'm coming out of one of the middle ones. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down one of the 11s on the side of that. So this is again heading into that beaded loop. And I'm going to pick up a new 11. And now I'm going to go into the 11 that's opposite the one that I'm coming out of. And you're going to see, if you're familiar with right angle weave, you're going to see what we just did here. So I just added in that bead right there. We just created a little unit of right angle weave. So this is the start of our band here. So I want to work my way around my circle through the original 11 I was coming out of, through the one I went up, and then through the new one I just added, because that's where we're going to start to have our band come off of our ring. So now we're coming out of the new bead that we added. Now, if you're familiar with right angle weave, you know that we're going to pick up 3 11s and we're going to circle into the 11 that we're coming out of. And now if this part seems a little tricky and if I go a little fast for you, keep in mind on our channel we have a lot of stitch tutorials. One of them is for right angle weave. So if this part seems to confuse you a little bit as we're building out our band, you may want to go and take a pause and go watch our basic right angle weave video just to get a little bit more familiar with the stitch. So now we've created another little unit here. Only now this one, as you can see, is lifting off of our ring here. Now I'm going to head up the side bead. I'm going to go across the top bead. Now we are going to be adding in beads after into our right angle weave that's going to stiffen and tighten this band up. So I'm not going to worry too much, and you shouldn't either if your right angle weave is a little bit loose, but for this first loop here, I am going to circle back around through it just to tighten it up a little bit because it's the one that's going to be attached to the rest of the ring. So I'm just circling back around through the beads I added until I'm coming out of that end bead there, the bead at the very end of our little chain that we're creating. Okay, so I'm going to pick up another 3 of my 11s. I'm going to circle back around, loop back around, circle back around through the end of that chain. So my needle and my working thread are both coming out of the same bead and on the same side of that bead. Sometimes you might have to just kind of pop them down into place a little bit with your finger, but you can see we created another little unit here. Now we're going to go up the side and across the top. So that way we can repeat it all over again. And the trick really is just keep your tension nice and tight if you can. You'll notice I pinch it between my fingertips and then give it a nice tug. That way, after I pulled it tight, it tends to stay tight a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to show you that one more time. I picked up 3. And it's also a little easier to do once you have more to hold at this point as well too. Circle back through the end bead, up the side, pinch it, and across the top, pinch it. So I'm going to keep going, And again, I'm not going to worry too much if everything is not sitting absolutely perfect, because we're going to end up adding in beads into these little spaces, and that is going to straighten everything right out. So I'll be back in a minute with more of the band done. Okay, so I have more of my band done. Now, as far as how long to make it, well, first establish what finger you want this to be on, and then you're going to want to just hold it around your finger and make it meet, and keep in mind that it's going to snug up a little bit, okay? So so once you make it meet around to the other side, because it's going to meet right back to here, right there. Once you make it meet around to the other side, just make it maybe 1 unit longer than that, because it's going to snug up just a little bit. So this is the last unit that I created. I am going to circle back through this unit one more time to tighten it up, since it's the unit that I'm going to be messing around with to attach it back to the ring. So I want to make sure it's nice and sturdy and not at all wobbly, because otherwise it would more easily loosen up as I attach it to my ring. So that's what I got there. So what's going to happen is the bead that I have at the very end is going to connect into these 3 that are right here. So if you can see, if this was going to be a right angle weave unit, we have our 2 side beads, we have our lower bead, and we're missing that little upper bead that creates that unit of 4. That's this bead right here. And what you want to make sure you do is that you don't twist your band as you're attaching it to your ring, because then you can't untwist it once it's sewn into place. So what I like to do is to make sure that I'm getting this all in the right direction, that I'm sewing through the right beads in the right direction. I like to just go ahead and form my band, because that way I'm going to be able to see where I need to go. And you can see that it's going to fit right there. So that tells me where I need to go with my needle as far as which bead, that bead or that bead. And it's going to be this bead. And luckily, as long as you're paying attention, if you choose the wrong bead, you're going to know right away, as long as you pay attention. So you can see there's the bead that I'm coming out of, and how it's starting to form that little unit of 4. So now we have to just sew it into place. So I have to go across right here. It's a little tricky to do, only because I'm holding this so you can see. Okay. Then move it and look at it from this side. And then we can go up the side bead, only into the 11, not into the 15s. There we go. And then you might have to tilt it into place a little bit, but you can see the bead that you have to go across. Right there. So, just to give you a nice good close-up, this is the bead from the end of the chain, the end of the band we made. We looped it back into the 3 that were already on our bezel, and then looped right into that end bead all over again. So what we're going to do is we're going to be nesting beads into each of these little spaces here by just going straight through those beads that are on the side. So you can see where I'm coming out. I'm actually going to be on the left side first. I'm going to go up that first bead there. I'm going to pick up a new 11. I'm going to go through the next bead. Okay, and so you can see how you're going to nest one into each of those little spaces. Just like that. Now I'm going to keep going until I get to the other side, and I'll show you what you do when you get to the other side. Okay, so I've made it all along this side to the other side, and you can already see how it's pulled in a little bit. The other side's going to do the same thing. This is that extra snugging that I mentioned. So the last bead that I added was that one right there. So now I have to go through that little cross bead so that way I can get to the other side to do the other side of our band. Just head up like that. And then we're ready to go down the other side. And as you go, you want to pull the bead into place, but maybe about halfway, you know, you're going to want to start to snug it up just a little bit more. Give it a little bit more of a tighter pull. And that's what's going to help to really even out this side. Now we have our band. So now the ring is basically done. We really just have to weave off our thread. Where I like to do that most is actually back in the band. So I'm going to cross back over and head right up into these beads just like this. This is also going to help to just tighten things up for you, make the band a little bit more substantial. And I'm going to travel through all of these side beads. And what I'll do is every now and then I'm going to stick my needle underneath the threads that are already passing through those beads. And I'll tie my little half hitch knot, go a little further, tie my next half hitch knot, just making sure that your half hitch knot gets closed down in the right place. Sometimes those little loops can hop over some of the beads next to them. Now, because I've gone down this side an additional time, I do want to go down the other side as well. So even if you've done enough knots that make you feel comfortable, pass right back across. And we're going to go up this side as well, because that way it's going to be what keeps both sides of that band the same or similar tension. And once you have a good amount of beads, a good amount of knots there, just pass through till you get to the other side, and then you can snip off your thread. Just like that. You have your super fun ring band for your super fun cocktail ring. And again, I think the shape of these Wibeduos add a beautiful, rich, regal look to this ring because of that shape and the fact that they create these lovely prongs that hold your stone into place. You can have a lot of fun with color, but again, if you want something quick and easy and painless to pick out the beads for, you have just 4 things, 4 colors, that's it, and you get a beautiful, beautiful one evening project that honestly, you'll probably bang out 3 of these at least in an evening. All right, guys. I hope everyone loved the video. If you have any questions, leave us some comments below. Make sure to visit us on over at eurekacrystalbeads.com for everything I used in this video. We have these colors and many, many more. See you next time.